Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Forays Business as Unusual webinar, which will discuss why agencies should embrace AI. While both agencies and advertisers have been experimenting with AI and machine learning for some time now, AI has really been the news ever since OpenAI's ChatGPT became available to the general population. I'm sure everyone listening in today has tried and tested GPT at some point since it was made available to the general population. And so today I'm thrilled to be joined by Anders Mortensen, Managing Director of Agency at Google, to discuss with them how agencies can lean into the power of AI and work with partners like Google to use AI to meet their clients' marketing goals and objectives. I have to say that this has been one of the most awaited discussions, Anders. So I'm really excited to be talking to you today.
Oh, thank you, Asvini. And listen, thank you to the entire 4A's team for having me today. I think it's been almost 6 months since we last met. So I'm really excited to be here to offer a view of on where we stand now when it comes to AI and especially on the emerging generative AI technologies. I want to do that based on three observations. The first observation is AI will transform every business. The second observation is that AI can turbocharge agencies like yours. And thirdly, getting ready means taking action. So, in many ways, AI has already and is already changing our world. It's helping us solve important real world problems for people, society, and businesses. It's helping us and helping emergency response teams predict the path of wildfires. It's helping us reduce traffic delays for drivers by optimizing traffic lights at busy intersections. And it's helping users search in new ways using both text and images at the same time. But I wanted to maybe share two recent breakthroughs with you. The first one, before AI, it would take a biologist a full doctoral thesis to discover the fold of one protein. But with Google DeepMind's AlphaFold, we've been able to predict the structure of more than 200 million proteins, representing almost every known catalog protein to man. That's equivalent to 400 million person years of scientific discovery just in a few weeks. And today, more than 1 million scientists and researchers have used AlphaFold to help accelerate the progress in many areas of research and drug discovery, which is just incredible. And we just recently announced that Google, together with American Airlines, are partnering to reduce the aviation industry's climate impact. Contrails, which is that white streaking clouds that trail planes in flight, account for as much as 35% of a plane's climate impact. However, by predicting how to reduce the number of contrails, which simply is by avoiding flying through very high humidity areas, AI helped American Airlines reduce contrails by 54%, and thereby reducing their global warming impact. I think these are just two examples that AI is now, and it'll profoundly transform every business and our society.
So those are fantastic examples. I have to share a personal example. When you talked about the protein example, my nephew did a summer project studying proteins in venom, in poison. He did all of that in 3 weeks. And to him, it's like, of course I can do it in 3 weeks. What's so special? And the adults in the family had to remind him that no, this would have been impossible 10 years ago. So to some extent, when you mentioned the taking action bit, that's it, right? You just have to get in and really start experimenting with what's available. So I wanted to move to the topic on everyone's mind, generative AI. I think ChatGPT really brought the whole generative AI topic, top of mind. I would love to remind the audience and everyone who's listening in that Google invented the T in the GPT, the transformers. And so I think you would be perfect to answer this question I have is, could you share some of the work that Google has been doing in this space, especially the generative AI bit?
Yeah, Ashwini, you know this, which is at Google, AI has always been at the core of everything we do. Like we pivoted to an AI first company back in 2016. And in fact, if you look at Google and Google DeepMind together, we've probably contributed to the majority of some of the biggest AI breakthroughs that we've witnessed over the last decade, whether from neural networks to reinforcement learning to transformers to AI infrastructure and even to AI hardware. And today, AI powers 15 Google products with over 500 million users each, and 6 products that have more than 2 billion users each. So I think for us, AI has always been front and center. And what we are really focused on now is that we want to make AI more helpful to everyone while avoiding harmful applications. And to do that, we need to develop and deploy the technology responsibly, which is what we'll continue to do. So it's not about being first. And, that's why we wrote our first AI principles back in 2018, which really remains essential as we navigate this moment thoughtfully and together. And I think since you and I last spoke, we've made numerous AI announcements. I mean, the pace of change is just astounding. We've announced SGE, Search Generative Experience in Search Labs. We've announced AI-powered overviews, and users can now easily ask follow-up questions right in search while browsing. We've announced that we are embedding the power of generative AI across the workspace apps with Duet AI for Workspace. We've introduced PaLM 2, which is our next generation language model. It's faster, it's more efficient than previous model. We've made Bard available in the 40 most spoken languages, and it can now help you code. And one of the things we talked about last time was, we was around copyright and misinformation, and we've now introduced watermarking and metadata to help address misinformation. So AI is just moving incredibly fast, but so is Google. And I think, the summary here is that we are really optimistic about the incredible potential for AI to both empower people, widely benefit current and future generations, and to work for the common good. We still have a lot of work in front of us, which we'll address responsibly and thoughtfully.
Yeah, that's a fabulous summary and introduction, and thank you for sharing it, because I agree with you. Being able to apply the principles thoughtfully and ethically and not do any harm are probably the key principles of how we probably will move forward. I wanted to move on to using something you said in the beginning about taking action and turbocharging agencies. AI and its applications are obviously of key interest to our members. Many of them have already started experimenting, testing, etc. And so would love your perspective on how agencies specifically can lean into AI on behalf of their clients, and where you see it intersecting with the work that they provide for their clients day in and day out.
I love that question. I think, maybe it's worth just zooming out a little bit and look at the advertising industry and where we stand today. And I don't know about you, but I think this is probably one of the most exciting times for our industry. It might not be the easiest time, but it's definitely one of the most exciting times. We are all not standing on the sidelines, we are in the middle of it. And so, what a great opportunity. However, if you read the earnings call comments made by CEOs and CFOs of some of the largest marketers in the world, you will realize, you'll know that we're in the middle of a paradigm shift in our industry. And there's just unprecedented industry and business volatility. And with this uncertainty and volatile times, it just places increased pressure on brands to justify their investments in order to deliver on both growth and profitability expectations. And I think at the same time, you're witnessing like an explosion in content, forms, formats, and choice. Consumers have never had more options, more ways to get inspired, more ways to research, more ways to engage with brands, or even more ways to buy. And so these consumer journeys are just increasingly non-linear, they're multi-device, and they're very, very complex. And I think it's the combination of the two that means that for marketers and for agencies like yours, the speed at which you need to analyze data, find customer insights, and adapt to how your brand shows up is unlike anything that we've seen before. I mean, in some ways, it's led us to this space of almost like unsustainable complexity. And I think that's why, at least I'm so excited about AI, because it does hold the potential to help us navigate this situation. And it holds the potential, according to Accenture, to increase marketing efficiency by up to 50%, boost return on investment by up to 30%. And it's been half a year since we spoke last, and yeah, we've seen, announcements every day, but this is still early days for us. But marketers have already started to embrace AI. I mean, it might be worth sharing that 80% of advertisers use at least one AI-powered search ads product today. And when we look at our YouTube video advertisers, 25%, so a quarter of them, have already automatically generated video assets. And so for agencies like yours, I think, whether it's our generative AI video tools, they just now make repackaging of existing assets into new vertical, horizontal, or square video ads easier and faster. So there's this opportunity to dramatically improve your operations, the efficiency, but even the return of ad spend for your agencies, but especially for your customers. And, for the audience today, I think if you think about your agency today and you just take a step back, you close your eyes, think about how many hours are spent on working on SEO-friendly headlines, coming up with new ideas to storyboards, trying to write new blog posts of content for the marketers and the brands that you're serving, finding the right image to use, prototyping, creating mock-ups, adapting existing assets to different contexts or even target groups, or reformatting existing assets or upscaling images to fit the proliferation of channels, devices, and brand guidelines. I mean, just simply the amount of time trying to analyze data in spreadsheets to come up with audience insights. I hope you don't disagree with me that there is an opportunity for us to go faster and do more with the resources and the capabilities that we have available. And I think if you flip to the next slide, I think, you know, one thing that is important is agencies sell ideas.
Yeah.
They sell concepts. And you all know that stories win accounts and they win new business. And that's the whole purpose of storyboards. But creating storyboards and mocking up creatives is super expensive and time consuming. Like some agencies that I speak to say that, you know, they have designers and art directors that are spending 25 and 30% of their time on it. And so with AI, you have the ability to create storyboard ideas at the speed of a text prompt. You can use Bard to create not only a concept, but a concept with a persona within a cohort that you want to establish with attribute styles coming from a tier 1 DMA. You can then produce multiple iterations of that content and be able to share them in actual video form, which may have taken historically 4 to 6 weeks to produce end to end. And I think the better the storyboard, the faster the idea sells. So you know, we've had this, and I guess the debate is like ongoing. AI doesn't diminish a designer's contribution. I think it elevates their ability to focus more on what they love, creativity, judgment, and empathy in their craft. And so in some ways, the future of design is essentially a future of co-creation between the human designer and the generative power of AI. And maybe I can share, and then feel free, Yasvini, to jump in. Maybe I can share just one example, which we recently announced. We announced TextFX. TextFX is 10 AI-powered tools for writers, for rappers, and artists of all kinds. And initially, the AI researchers at Google, we thought we should create a tool that could write the lyrics for Lupe Fiasco. And Lupe is if you don't know, a Grammy award-winning rapper. He's a professor and an entrepreneur. But Lupe didn't want a tool to write the lyrics. He wanted a tool to help him explore the universe of possibilities. And in some ways, what he said was, this is not to remove the rapper from the process, but to keep the rapper in the process, more empowered and more informed.
I wish we had 4 or 5 hours to discuss just the last 2 slides that you took us through, Anders, because there is so much in there. I am pretty sure we're going to have a part 2 of this discussion at some point. I really liked how you closed out that section about AI does not diminish the creator or the human contribution, if you will. Instead allows you to focus on the strategy. And what you mentioned about Lupe and giving him at his disposal the ability to explore what's possible, not create for him, but help ideate with him.
Yeah, I mean, and for the, you know, for all the members and people on the call, you should really watch the video. It's just it's so inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah. And so let me move on to, I guess, people and talent. Probably people listening in know. If not, then they'll be glad to know that the Forays has started creating crash courses in AI, which are meant to be easy to understand, small bite-sized courses that agencies can tap into to train their employees in this field. I also checked out the various training programs that Google recently released. Fabulous. I think we will get trained on those specific training programs for sure, and I would recommend any and everyone listening in to go check out those training programs. Question for you, Anders, is about talent overall. Based on everything that you've seen, that you've discussed, that Google has been doing, what do you think is needed to succeed in this world, in this AI-driven world, or maybe retrain in areas instead of so the point being, instead of approaching this with fear, approach this with education and curiosity.
I, I, I mean, you know, it's really, I think as human beings, it's just change is just hard, right? And it creates a lot of uncertainty. I think it's hard to predict what the future is bringing, but if we look at history, we know that new jobs are created all the time. And in fact, in some ways, I think the majority of US employment has emerged in jobs that didn't exist in the 1940s. We just don't see it sort of in our everyday life. But if we think about it, that is the case. And so when we talk to agencies, they all say that generative AI is here to stay. And the vast majority of marketers are starting to, adopt it, and they're already asking their agency partners about it because they see it as a transformational technology. And while while the agency and the advertising industry is increasingly leaning into technology, we are all still a people business. I mean, and so AI, like we have to invest in the complementary assets, and like humans, education and training will be so critical to enable agencies to multiply their expertise. I mean, evidence is starting to build up that from studies that AI can increase productivity, quality, and even job satisfaction. So I think as like for the people on the call, agency leaders, you need to make the necessary investments in your people as you have done historically, because these these people will ultimately drive the health of the advertising industry in the future. And we see all these tweets and articles, and yeah, World Economic Forum believes that prompt engineering is going to be the job of the future. you know I think we have to take a step back, because I think we have to be really good at problem formulation,
Agree with you.
because that'll be critical, since many of these tools and algorithms are going to be slightly different. And problem formulation or problem definition really requires deep domain expertise, which is what agencies have. And you see, when you see some of these prompts, you can see from the specific, like how specific the prompt is, that it's a photographer who defined, the camera angle, the lighting, the studio setting. Like, it is the domain expertise, it is the people in agencies that are going to use AI. And I think it's about multiplying that expertise that's going to make it very successful. Um, So, Ashwini, I think one of the things, maybe before we can wrap up, but I also want to mention that we have a few AI-related ad product updates and resources that I hope you and your teams and your members are going to find useful. I just like we at Google Marketing Live in May, we announced updates to automatically created assets, revamp asset creation, and product studio. I mean, automatically created assets basically is starting to use generative AI to create assets with high quality copy that are going to be even more relevant for customers and therefore create more engagement. We revamped asset creation flow to easily generate high quality creative assets in Performance Max using Google AI. And we've launched Product Studio, which is incredibly cool. It's a new suite of free AI powered tools, which is available within Merchant Center. it enhances and creates high quality product image. The amount of marketers that I speak to that are still struggling to just create variations, iterations, or convert images, from either in terms of context, but even just from like, image resolution and quality, it is holding them back from basically attracting more customers and drive up revenue. And so we know that, if you can generate scenes or increase image resolution or edit backgrounds, like new images can help you attract more customers. And so offers with more than one image see a 76% average increase in impressions and 32% increase in clicks. So the engagement is there and the opportunity is there. So those were just three product sort of ads product updates that I wanted to highlight. One thing that we've also done is we've ensured that our clients' campaigns are staying up to date, and we launched an AI checklist and an AI guide, which you can all find on Think with Google, which I recommend checking out. And then, of course, as you mentioned, Ashwini, and I'm so happy to hear that you are educating yourself and taking action. But we're also offering free generative AI courses through Google Cloud as well, which I'm sure we can share the link to all of that after.
Yeah, I was about to say the forays would love to broadcast these different resources. When you mentioned formulation and prompt engineering and whatnot, I'm old enough to kind of remember when data became the thing, and suddenly it was like, how much data can you get, and how much can you store, and how much can you have? And it's never been about how much data, it's about what can you do with it. And that sort of feeds back into the expertise that you mentioned, that sure, you can prompt whatever you want and learn the prompting. What is it that you're trying to ask though? What do you want out of it? And so to that point, I would love for you to share your perspective on how an agency or how a brand, how do you think their business model should evolve in this world where probably every first step we take is AI related instead of AI becoming a supplement? It's kind of not creator, the starter kit. How should the business models evolve, do you think?
Yeah, I mean, since we last spoke, I mean, you're just witnessing how fast AI is developing. And I think here's what we know. We know that large language models are only going to get more capable. They're going to get faster and they're going to get cheaper, which means that we'll see an increase in different use cases and applications. And the business case for AI is compelling because of this mounting evidence that, companies that do invest in AI see uplift in productivity, quality, revenue, even customer sentiment and ROI. So brands are already leaning into it. They're asking questions, and I think they're looking for strategic, creative, and technical competences from the agency partners. And if the previous two technological shifts have taught us anything, it is that we are just in the early stages and we probably haven't seen anything yet. So it really, really comes down to getting ready. And I've been with Google for a decade. And when I joined Google, people were sitting and manually analyzing keywords and trying to calculate the bits. And now we've moved away from that to feeding a machine with a bid target, a budget, and creative assets. And the machine is now doing all that work. However, like back to problem formulation and definition, the complexity now moves to the beginning. What to input, like how much budget, what's the right bid, what type of assets, to the end, which is trying to analyze the output and find insights. So AI can't succeed without human judgment or even expertise. And so I think as we look at the business and the industry, there'll still be sort of this need to develop a core set of big stories, long form video, culturally driven work, live experiences. And these stories cannot be done by AI today. They're too complex, they're too sensitive to audience and cultural nuance. And I think it'll require human imagination and storytelling to be effective. What you can do is you can take those stories and convert them into, many iterations, and like it becomes this ocean of AI powered assets around short form video, display, search creative assets flowing into screens and moments of all sizes and modes. And it'll be driven by machine learning to optimal performance. So I think to your question is, hey, what can you do today? And so in some ways you can sort of say, well, you should develop an AI strategy with a support framework for people, processes, and technologies. But I we still early days, and I don't think for most companies the AI maturity is there. I think there's a practical step before that, which is really to train your teams. And like, if the world is changing, which I think we can agree it is, and if we think the pace of change is accelerating, which I think we can agree it is, it means that what you know today will become obsolete or worth less. It'll be less valuable in the future. So the only meaningful way to stay ahead of competition is to learn faster. Learn faster than your customers, learn faster than competition. So you and I, as we debate, or we talked about this idea of a readiness score, and you could sort of think about, has everybody received the foundational level of understanding of AI and what it is and how it works from a sort of generic perspective? Are you starting to train teams based on their functions, or where they sit in the value chain within your agency? And then have you started identifying projects and different use cases, either internally but could be externally, where you think generative AI is most helpful? And what, like, how have you been able to potentially co-develop with clients, which is experiment to learn? And then as you do that, you start harvesting insights, and you can now push to new areas that you think is relevant. And I think it really comes down to the three observations in some way, which is AI will transform every business. It can turbocharge your agency, but you have to get ready, and getting ready means taking action. It's a bit like and apologies for the sports analogy, but listen, the likelihood of winning and scoring goals will go up dramatically if you're in possession of the ball and you play on your opponent's half. That is just a fact. So I don't know if that resonates with people, but I think, and I love the conversations that we've had, as I think there's this incredible opportunity for all of us to come up with ways that we can use AI to, transform the advertising industry and just make it better. Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny. My dad used to give the same example, except in cricket. You need to be able to be at the bat. You need to be able to be batting to be able to score runs. So get into it essentially. I just want to repeat the 4 practical tips that you mentioned. I fully agree that just saying that AI strategy, build one, support, it is very confusing to figure out where to start. It is a very
Yes.
complicated and complex space. And so I'm repeating what Anders mentioned in terms of training your team, identifying projects where you can actually start experimenting. Experiment for sure. The Forays ran a webinar. Hopefully all of you joined that as well, where we spoke about the legal watchouts for experimenting with AI. So make sure that you are able to test and experiment in the correct legal sandbox, if you will, and definitely keep pushing for new areas. I think Anders, like I mentioned, we could probably talk for another couple of hours easily.
Absolutely.
And so I will be reaching out to have the part 2 of this conversation. Something that we really would love to create with you, with Google, is the readiness checklist, if you will, because you're right. We are all talking about AI as if that's all we have ever done. The fact is that none of us have actually completely fully used it from start to end, and we don't really know areas that we may fail or we may succeed. That's where the test and learn comes into play. So I want to thank you very much for this fabulous conversation.
Thank you.
And
Thank you for
hopefully
having me.
we have a part 2 pretty soon. And I want to thank everyone for joining. I hope you found this not just useful, but exciting and motivating. And we'll make sure to share the different resources that Anders mentioned during his talk. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.